Today we are so delighted to be back in the studio, and we have guests with us again, and we are all things career today. So we are going to be career-minded today in our podcast.
We're so excited to welcome you back to All Things. We're glad tonight to have some special guests with us. Ronnie Huckaby and Tyler Morgan.
Glad to be
both
here
with us, and we're gonna be introducing them here in a minute for this career podcast. Yes. I think you're really gonna enjoy this. Two great guys to be with us tonight.
Thank y'all for being here. It's going to be a good show today. So we always start with our one thing. And Michael, I'm going to ask you to go first. What is your one thing that you've been on this week? What is your thing?
My one thing is personal to me and to our church, our family center that we are trying to finish out. Place for community and fellowship for our church. We've had contractors in, we've had subcontractors in, and this week, just a few days ago, the Family Center passed all of the inspections that we needed.
Nice.
And starting next week, we will begin putting sheetrock on the walls, and we're very, very excited about that. So, had several men and women in the church working hard to get us to this point.
Yes.
Diversified contract and so many others, and we're so thankful. We are ready for that ribbon cutting. We're ready for that first event in there in the next few months, and it's our first, but I keep telling people it won't be our last building on this 10 acres. So excited to pass those inspections and move forward to the next phase of our family center.
That is absolutely right. I am super excited. If you don't follow our church on social media, you should follow so you could get some updates when that's being completed, when it is completed, because we will definitely be posting some images and video of all that going on.
I assume you have a one thing
I do.
as well.
Well, okay, so I did one earlier this week on our show with your boss, with Mr. John
Harrell.
And I've had a couple of friends ask me where they can go get this ice machine. It's a sonic ice machine.
And what brand?
Okay, so I'm going to put the link in the podcast notes, but the brand is Simz Life, SIMZ Life, Nugget Ice Maker, and it puts out up to 35 pounds a day. So it's
perfect
small,
for our
but
household.
It's a hefty little thing. So I figured it up too, since we were talking about finance. We were talking about finance on the last episode. We have a finance guy with us here tonight.
Say the accountant in the room will certainly
So
appreciate this.
and I'm a math teacher, so I crunched some numbers, and that thing is saving me $1.38 per drink.
Wow.
Nice.
And it should have paid for itself, because I was getting, we have a gas station near our home, and now that I'm saying this out loud, I feel bad for the gas station.
Sorry to Jason Langston, the Murphy gas station.
We know the owner, so we still buy our gas there. But so I was spending a number there every day. I was getting a drink there probably at least every day. If it was a certain kind of day, I might even have to.
$2.09, right?
Yes, $2.09. And then a Sonic or McDonald's drink would have even been more. But that $2.09, I figured it up. It's saving me $1.38, so it's less than $1 with my ice machine and the price of the cans of Dr. Pepper Zero, etc. So
it's basically paid for itself, is what you're saying.
Pretty quickly.
It will be, I think, by either end of September, October, all those drinks should be pretty well free for me.
Good investment.
Yeah.
That's what I thought too, so.
Unfortunately, it led to an espresso machine.
Yes. So now
we can make iced coffee.
Because I have ice. No, I want iced coffee all the time.
All right,
You're
I'll
on
be
the right
looking
track
for my invite.
I'll crunch numbers on that later. I've not
for
done
the
that
next
yet.
time. That's right.
Okay, so I have a couple super serious would you rather questions for you guys about your job. Would you rather have to walk to work in flip-flops or drive to work in reverse? I told you it was serious.
This says a lot about you as a human being, too.
We want to know.
However you
I
answer
know mine,
this.
but you go ahead.
Okay, I would much rather drive to work in reverse.
Yes, absolutely.
It's challenging it's probably fun, way more fun than having to walk anywhere in
And
flip-flops.
flip-flops.
I'm walking in the flip-flops.
Say that may be a man thing to
It's
want
a
to
good
drive
thing.
in
I was
reverse.
Yeah,
I don't
hey.
want to
Say
offend
that.
any listeners out there, but that
And-
may be it just sounds fun.
I'd rather do it with a trailer hooked on the back.
Oh, man.
No,
I'm not
there's-
walking in
Not
flip flops.
walking.
No way.
We'll have an all things counseling session too. So for people like want punishment. Yeah, I do think it's a guy thing. Okay, so one more question, kind of the same thing. Would you rather ride a donkey to work or a giraffe? So like one's kind of functional, might make a little bit of sense, but kind of lame. Giraffe just super cool. So which one?
I don't know. I'm leaning towards giraffe, but I just feel like that would just make such a statement.
Yeah. You
I
want
would
to be
just
that guy.
I'd be
you know?
the giraffe guy.
You would.
And I don't know if I want that. So I'd probably.
You're going
would-
to play it safe.
I'm more on the play it safe. I'd take a donkey.
Okay.
I'm all about efficiency. You're definitely getting there faster on the giraffe.
Okay.
I can wake up later, get there still at the same time.
That's
I'm taking
that
the giraffe.
engineer in you,
There you
the
go.
Yep.
efficiency thing. Mary did ride a donkey, so Tyler, good choice. I
Yeah.
feel like
This is true.
the donkey
spiritual.
was good for
Only
Mary.
because she didn't have a giraffe.
Okay, that's true. She didn't have a giraffe.
Well, we're thrilled that both of you are here tonight. Thank you for joining with us for this
Oh, yeah.
podcast.
Excited to be here.
You know, Ronnie, I get the privilege of serving with you every week, and our church was so happy when you brought Kaylin into all of our lives.
Undoubtedly.
And then we were doubly excited when Emmett and Beckham joined us here at Cornerstone. And
Yes, our
and
twinsies.
now we all await the arrival of baby number 3 later this year. And we've certainly enjoyed getting to know you from when it was just you to watching you and now your family and watching you guys grow.
Yeah.
And you know, we've
been a
known you
journey.
for several years now, and we love you like our own family, and so we're excited that you're here, and you've taken on a new role in the last year or so. You're employed with Lockheed Martin, but
Right.
what is it exactly you do out there?
So I spent 3.5 years with Lockheed as a quality engineer.
Okay.
And then recently I've moved into more of a prod ops type role. So I've been a production lead for one of the programs at Lockheed.
Right.
So
Cool.
really more in like the management side of things.
Sure.
Coordinating between functional groups.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And then our second guest tonight, Tyler Morgan. He's a CPA and partner in the Emmerich and Scroggins accounting firm down in El Dorado.
Yep.
And I've certainly enjoyed watching you and your wife and your children from not too far away. And something I feel like I have in common with both of you is we've married up. And so our wives, well, I like each of you guys. We love your wives as well. And I know they're both amazing and great compliments to each of you. But you're not very far away down in Northland, El Dorado area. And you guys both have some incredible stories. And I'm so thankful for you. You both are apostolic. You both are educated. You both are leaders within your churches. And from a pastor's perspective and a pastor's heart, what you two are doing is so needed and it's so vital in our local churches.
Absolutely.
You're both leaders in your church, but you're also leaders in the workplace. You're leaders in your communities. And I'm just privileged to get to know you guys. And I'm thankful to have smart friends. I'll say that. So
Same.
before we jump in, why don't each of you tell us a little more about your background? So you've been an engineer. Ronnie, we'll start with you, and now the management side. But for those of you that may not have known you out there, what led you to this point? Tell us a little bit about your educational background, your career background, maybe advances along the
Okay.
way. What's led
Yeah.
you to today?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in North Louisiana. Graduated high school, went to Louisiana Tech University. I'll be honest, I really had no idea what I was doing, what I wanted to do. Senior year, halfway through senior year, I kind of decided on engineering for no other reason other than I just liked math and that it was 20 minutes down the road. So, I mean, God definitely works in mysterious ways, but I think he definitely played a hand in that. But yeah, so I went to Louisiana Tech, did mechanical engineering. My start of my junior year, I was getting a little tired of school, to be honest, and went to a career fair, interview with Lockheed Martin, ended up getting an opportunity to come to Camden to do a co-op. So I took a few semesters off at Louisiana Tech, came here. This is where I met the Sheltons, met you guys. So it was super awesome to.
The rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is absolutely history. But yeah, so that was my introduction to Camden and to Lockheed Martin, and went back, finished school, got married, spent a few years working in a paper mill in West Monroe. Got a lot of operational experience there, leadership experience there. Spent 4 years there. We would come back to Camden periodically, and I think we were here.
It's the COVID year.
Yeah, it was the COVID year.
COVID year. Spring break.
We were here spring break COVID year, and I remember we left y'all's house, and I remember I don't think we really said anything, and we pulled out and passed the bank, and I looked at Kaylin and said, "What are we doing? When are we, like, this is home. When are we coming up here?" And I think at that point, the dominoes just really started falling. When we decided that we were coming, God just laid everything out. I mean, Kaylin got a job quick, I got a job quick, and everything just really fell in place. But
Camden is so lucky to have you guys, and I know you're here for your career, but you've also even jumped off into the real estate side of things. You have a few rental properties now, and
I do,
and that's been a learning process. And you're accounting over there too,
exactly. Tyler
making
keeps
sure
me
you
in
do
line.
everything right. So,
Keeping them straight.
Yep.
Keeping us out of
absolutely,
jail.
that's right.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, well,
Couldn't
Tyler,
do it without him.
yeah.
Yep.
Tyler, how about you? I mean, you're a CPA, you're a partner in your firm. What's been your journey to get here?
So it's kind of similar to what Ronnie said. So when I graduated high school, again, no idea what I wanted to do. So
You
I
grew
did
up in El Dorado? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Northlet. Graduated from
okay.
Northlet, close to El Dorado.
Yeah.
And so I went to college, just got my basics, 2 years, and I still don't know what I want to do. So I put my education on hold. I took a job at a local manufacturing plant. I was there for about 3 years, working a lot of overtime, a lot of shift work. Not super ideal, but I was happy. My aspirations, hey, I'm just going to retire from this place. I thought that's probably about as good as I could do. And it's kind of a long story. I'll keep it concise, but on my way to work one day, it was raining really hard, and so I hydroplaned. And so going down the highway 60, 65 miles an hour, vehicles spinning, hit a bridge, car flipped over. Luckily, I walked away unscathed. I say luckily, that was all God. He kept me for sure. But essentially, I crawled out of the window, got my mom to pick me up. She drove me to work. I was about 10 minutes late.
Wow.
Wow, that's dedication.
Yes. And so the crazier thing is that the next work day, I got laid off.
Whoa.
And so I'm just like, come on, guys. But there was the economy was bad, and there was a big layoff. About 20 of us got hit with that. So,
Were you driving in reverse?
You know,
thought I would
like I
ask.
said, it was spinning down the road. So at certain points, yes, I was going.
Maybe you do need to go to work in those flip-flops.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe I need to change my answer on that. But
Bad joke. I'm sorry.
No. But through that, I was kind of at a transition point. It's like, well, I don't have a car. I'd lost my job. I'm just like, God, you got to help me out here. So that was right before summer. So I was able to go to all the camps, kids camps, junior camp, senior camp, family camp, NAYC,
Nothing like it.
Louisiana
Nothing
camp.
like
I just plugged into God as much as I could, and just got such direction for my life, and I felt led to go back to college. And it was either going to be accounting or I was going to be a commercial airline pilot.
Okay.
Wow.
Just because I thought that would be cool, but God led me a different way. So I did go to accounting. I went to Louisiana Tech as well. Go Bulldogs. So I got my bachelor's and my master's in accounting there, and then went on to get my CPA license in 2021. Yep.
Wow. Cool.
I don't know how I didn't know that you had been at Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, it seemed, I was thinking about that, and I was like, I think Ronnie went to Tech too. I think I knew that.
All these years,
Yep.
still learning something new.
We probably passed each other at some
Probably. So when did you graduate?
point. 2019.
Okay. I was 17, so I was
Yeah.
a little bit before.
Well, I was there in 17.
That's right. Yeah.
So we just heard a couple of challenges that you faced when you just very, very getting started. Ronnie, did you have any challenges when you first began this journey on your career?
Yeah, so I would say number one, and I tell a lot of new engineers that come into the workplace that one thing that I don't think that college really prepared me for is that as soon as you start work, you are going to immediately be into a leadership type role.
Yeah.
And it's just, especially in the manufacturing type environments, because of the nature of the work that you're doing, you're typically supporting a production line. You're supporting, you are a support to something in the plant. And so because of that, you end up being in a leadership role. And so I don't think that at least my college experience really prepared me adequately
Wow.
for that.
Yeah.
Luckily, though, I think that things that I had been doing in the church did help me with some of that, my
That's
people
awesome.
interactions and being able to relate with people and talk
Mm-hmm.
to people. So yeah, I think that is one thing for sure that I definitely struggled with it
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Yeah, that's good. I think that really probably helped somebody that was listening, because that's very good to know. Any accounting challenges particular to your field?
Specifically, if anybody's going to be in accounting, kind of one of the higher goals would be to get your CPA license. And for me, that was probably the most challenging thing I've ever done. Essentially, I was putting in 2 hours of study time in the morning every day for 2.5 months to pass 4 parts. So there for like a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just complete dedication.
Yeah, it's
super
very grueling.
inconvenient. The work-life study balance is completely out of whack. But so that was very.
Were you married during this time?
I was married,
Okay.
and Junie was born
Wow.
right in the middle of
Yeah.
that. In fact, both of our girls were born during tax season. So, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's been stressful, but it's all been good. God's opened doors along the way. And, but yeah, anybody going into accounting, that's
Yeah.
going to be the hardest thing probably.
So staying there, unpacking that a little bit, any advice for someone starting in the accounting field
Yeah.
that like, hey, you really need to do this or focus on this, and
Right.
how you find that balance even?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people coming out of college, the next step is, okay, time to sit for my exams and get licensed. A lot of people want to take a break or go on vacations. I would just say, nope.
Yeah.
Just while everything's fresh on your mind,
Keep
just
going.
get it knocked out, because it's hard. I think the pass rates on the test are like between 40 and 50%. So most people that take these exams will fail.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a hard thing. I would also say, to add to that, just to believe in yourself and have those high aspirations.
Yeah.
I know specifically in my workplace, I'd probably been working there a year or two when the partner approached me and basically gave me an offer of becoming a partner over like a 4 or 5 year time span, which is about just earlier this year I became a partner. But at the time I was just like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know anything. I felt, very intimidated by that. And I almost said no, just because it felt like something that I could not do. I was very, kind of had that imposter syndrome
Sure.
feeling.
Yeah.
But I was able to reconcile it. It's like, look, right now I can't see it. I don't know how I could ever, take ownership of this, be a boss, a leader, or anything like that. But 4 or 5 years from now, I feel like that would feel more natural. So
Yeah.
I said yes, and it was intimidating, but along the way, it's all been very natural. So I would just say have those high aspirations.
I love that there was a plan in place, a several year spanning plan. That's really good.
Yeah, mine's not as complicated as accounting or CPA, and certainly not engineering either. But I was taking graduate schooling down in SMU for banking, and we were on campus for a bit, but then we would come home and we would have papers to write. And that was one thing they would stress to us. They were like, don't go home from this and take a month off. They were like, while it's fresh, while it's in you, start on these papers, just get started. And I think you spoke to that a few minutes ago. It's so important. Like, just keep going. Here a little, there a little, just keep going and pressing on. So
if
it'll
at
all
first
come
you
together.
don't succeed, try again. If there happens to be a listener out there sitting for their CPA exam,
keep trying.
Keep trying.
So Ronnie, how about you? Somebody thinking in their mind, I want to be an engineer. What does that look like? Maybe some advice, input. I mean, you did an internship. Maybe that's something you would recommend? Like, hey, you ought to intern at some of these places. And so what advice would you offer?
Yeah, so that would be my number one advice is get an internship. So I know Louisiana Tech did a very good job of having career fairs, and even though typically as a freshman you're not going to get an internship that first year, it's possible that you could. You still need to go to the career fairs, talk to the industry. I mean, there's so many industries out there that are hiring different types of engineers, and just because you're a mechanical or a chemical or electrical, whatever type of engineer you are, there is something out there that is intriguing, that's exciting, that you can go. It gets some real life experience, because when you go to graduate and you're looking for that real job, those companies are looking at your resume to see what type of real world experience you have.
That you have.
That's good.
Yeah.
So good.
Just because you graduated engineering with a 4.0, but you didn't take any internships, like, the companies are looking at those type of things. They want to see that you had real life experience.
That's good.
Engineering school, grueling, late nights. What does study
I spent
look like?
some late nights. So I would also say one other piece of advice is take full load your freshman year. I came in, I was a little intimidated. I didn't really know how to study like I really needed to in college. So it took me a little bit to get my feet under me. But it really hurt me my senior year, because when you're supposed to be able to kind of relax and hang out your senior year, I was taking full loads my senior year, and I looked back and it was because freshman and sophomore year I was just kind of hanging out. Take those classes. Even though they're easy, you can load up on those easy classes at the beginning, and then kind of take some time to get those harder ones out of the way at the end of the year.
Well, I think that kind of would be a good answer for my next question for you guys. What do you wish you knew when you first started? So hindsight is 20/20. So it sounds like you wish you knew that you needed to take a full load. Tyler, is there anything that you wish you knew?
Yeah. So being an accountant and going into accounting, one thing I wish I knew from the beginning is how important communication skills would be. The stereotype
in any career field,
and that's so true.
Good communication
that's
skills.
So true. I was going in thinking I was going to be in a cubicle somewhere crunching numbers all day, and just come out for air every now and then. And that's really not how my day to day looks like. Especially now in a leadership role, I'm meeting with clients, I'm helping, our employees stay on track. And so I think early on, I wish I would have known how important that would have been, so I could have worked on those communication skills. I know you guys did a podcast recently on communication. I really appreciated that, because it really is so important. Like you said, that applies to any career.
So for both of you, in your careers now, both of you have young families, wife and kids. What gives you motivation to get up and go in every day? What's when that alarm clock goes off, whatever time it is?
What's your why?
What's your why? What's the motivation there? Either one of you.
Yeah, I think for me, it really is my family. like you alluded to earlier, I've got 16-month-old twin boys. We've got another baby due in December, which we still have not named yet. So
Michael Jr. is just, it's out there.
if anyone has good, strong male names that's not Robert Michael or Michael Robert, I would definitely appreciate them. But yeah, so we're still looking for that name for the. But yeah, what's my why? It really is my family. I want to, be able to provide things for them that I didn't have when I was growing up. Had a good life growing up. I'm not saying that I didn't, but I want to be able to provide for them, and I want to be a witness for them too. I want them to. I'm so thankful for Cornerstone and the place that they get to grow up in, and the family and the security here, and so they really are my why behind really every decision that I make.
That's good.
That's good. Tyler, how about you?
Yeah, I would echo that. Family for sure. One thing I would add that really helps us stay motivated to go to work, it really is our morning routine.
Yeah.
One thing, Alyssa and I, when we first got married, we were just, young kids. And so when it was time to get up and go to work, we'd sleep in as late as we could and just roll out of bed and get to work. So that kind of changed. At some point, we started waking up earlier and getting some things done, like prayer time. We read through a devotional every morning, and we've started exercising together and things like that. We might wake up an hour or two earlier and do all of those things, and by the time it's time to get ready to go to work, you've already got an hour or two of being productive.
Yeah.
Right.
And that, at that point, when you're driving to work, it's just like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm
Ready
ready
to
for
hit
the
the
day.
ground
I've already
running.
got started.
Yeah.
So that's just a practical thing.
Yeah, that's really special.
That's helped us.
I like that. Okay, I love this question. What is a common myth about your industry, your career? Are there any myths about?
Oh,
I know
absolutely.
there's for sure
Oh,
about
yeah.
accountants.
There's a
Yeah, there's certain, and for banking, everybody thinks I deal with money. Like I never
Like you
touch
count money,
cash.
yeah.
I never count money.
Yeah.
They don't let me near the money. It's kind of always my response. Like they keep me as far away from it as possible. So
Well, I think for engineering, similarly, like what you were saying earlier about you thought you were going to be sitting in a cubicle crunching numbers and coming up for error every now and then. I think that people hear engineering and they think designers, they think somebody, you're building a bridge, or you're building this, or you're designing something, which, yes, there absolutely are engineers out there and I know some that are way smarter than I could ever dream of being, literal rocket engineers. But then I think mechanical engineering is so broad because, and I think really the biggest thing that engineering teaches you is critical thinking skills, because there's really not a lot of true engineering that I do in my job day to day now. It's solving problems, no matter what the problem is, just being able to understand a situation, dissect the parts, figure out where the issues are, and solve them.
That's just music to a math teacher's ears.
Yeah.
Problem solving 101.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love
it's critical thinking.
so many jobs
great.
in the workforce, they need communication. We've talked about that, and they need to be able to problem solve.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's what managers
Be a
look for,
good
people
thinker.
that can critically think, solve a problem, and communicate the answer to their customer, to the people around them. So
Yes. It's very good.
Yeah, and then problem solving. As an engineer, you start off problem solving like situations, but then as you start getting into management, you're problem solving with people, and that
Yes.
throws a
People.
whole nother aspect into
Personalities.
it.
Yeah.
Throw that in the mix.
Yeah, you bring personalities into the mix,
Right.
and you're trying to get a task done, but as a manager, you're having to work through other people, so you have to understand what motivates those people.
Exactly.
Well, yes, I understand
Excellent.
that the task needs to be done, but you don't know what that person, or you have to understand what that person's going through
The dynamics,
outside of work,
absolutely.
or what the dynamic is of that person. So,
True.
it's interesting, for
Very
sure.
good. Accounting myths?
Yes. So one thing that I get a lot when I'm telling people I'm an accountant or talking to a young person trying to figure out what they want to do, and I said, well, I'm an accountant. Do you ever see yourself being an accountant? And they almost 100% of the time say, oh, I hate math. I can't do math for nothing. I could never be an accountant. And the math that I do on a day-to-day basis probably doesn't exceed like a third grade level.
Yeah.
I might
Just
add
adding,
and
subtracting,
subtract.
It's
I
two
might-
grades beyond what I can do.
I might go crazy and multiply every now and then, but I mean, you know, people hear accounting and they hear count,
Yeah.
but it's really the account. We
Yeah.
are accounting for the numbers. Where should the numbers be? Why do we have this discrepancy? You know, when we have problems, just like Ronnie said, you know, solving problems. It's almost more like if you like doing Sudoku puzzles, I feel like accounting is for you, because that's essentially what it is. It's just, okay, how do we get these numbers here? Even, you know, we deal with tax law a lot, so it's similar to being a lawyer. You've got to know what the rules are.
And there are plenty of rules.
So many rules, and they change all
And
the
they
time.
can change.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the coming election is bringing some changes.
Brings
so
about new changes,
buckle up.
new tax code.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So to me, it's exciting, but I'm not just sitting around doing math all day.
Yeah. That's
We'll
good.
leave that to you, Sister Keisha.
I bet
That's
if
right.
you are doing math, it's in Excel.
I do use Excel. Yeah. And technology is a huge part of
Yeah.
the day-to-day as well.
Oh yeah.
So speaking of the upcoming political season and the tax laws, are there any other stressors associated with your career, Tyler, in accounting, and how do you handle those?
Yeah, I've kind of a couple things. One would be the work-life balance.
I imagine that's hard in tax season.
Tax season, it can be brutal. Honestly, as far as work goes, I enjoy work the most during tax season. Things are fast-paced. You know, getting a lot done, just a lot of satisfaction and that sense of completion. Whereas outside of tax season, things can be dragging on. And so I enjoy my work, but at the same time, you know, we ask our employees to do 50 hours a week and then 36 the rest of the year. So I feel like that's a good balance for them.
Yeah.
But the owners, we might do 55, 60, 70, just whatever we need to.
Right.
So that can put a stressor on, you know, I'm missing out on family time, or, you know, I'm always there at church, but I might not be as prepared as I need to be.
Sure.
So that's always a stressor. And then the other thing is, you know, sometimes I have to deliver bad news to people.
Yeah.
And that I think out of anything, that's probably my least favorite part of the
Sure.
job. So, so I try to be proactive with my clients, and you know, if we've got a lot of income this year, I'll try to let them know, okay, you know, more income means more tax, but maybe
Yeah.
try to work with them to do some tax planning to make it a better year next year. But yeah, those are probably some of the main stressors. But
That's good. That's a good one. Ronnie, stressors associated with what you do, or just work stress in general? What would you tell people who are listening about how you deal with work stress?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar to Tyler. I work in a manufacturing environment where we're driven by sales. We have monthly, quarterly sales goals that we have to attain. So it's a little bit of a fluctuation monthly. The first of the month is kind of chill for the most part. Toward the end of the month, it
Yeah.
gets pretty ramped up, especially if you're going to cut it close at the end of the month. So those times, similar to Tyler again, I enjoy the crunch. I enjoy like really getting tasks done quickly toward the end of the month. But it can be stressful. For me, I think there are times where I had to just kind of relax in my office and just do some prayer.
Yeah.
Just be able to sit down, and I've kind of out loud to myself said, all right, I need to take a breath. I'm going to just kind of hang out for 5 minutes. I'm going to pray. Just remind myself that this is not everything that I'm here for.
That's right.
I am here to provide for my family.
That's where your why comes back into
Exactly.
play. That's
Exactly.
right.
It's where the why comes back.
Awesome.
Because when things start getting stressful, you can get wrapped up in the moment. You can get wrapped
Yeah.
up in those moments, and you can forget again your why you're
Yeah.
really there. And
Those
then
problems can seem bigger than they actually are.
Right.
Yep.
There's a lot of pride coming from me over here because I see you too, and I want to say this to our listeners that you can be an apostolic Christian and be a leader
That's right.
in your workplace, and so I'm just kind of proud to even be visiting with you two and seeing you guys do this on a day-to-day and a practical level. And so I want to turn this a little bit and ask, how does your career path give you unique opportunities for the kingdom of God? And Ronnie, you were talking earlier about moving into management in your field, and now you're dealing with people. And I might even would say, and for our listeners out there, that God's Spirit in you as a Christian can help you navigate those issues, those people, not knowing what they're dealing with, but maybe sensing from the Lord helping you
Right.
and saying, hey, that person,
Yeah.
Tap in there,
Yeah.
unpack a little bit more
That's
of
right.
what they're dealing with, what they're going through, and it may be a kingdom moment for you. And so, maybe just using that as an example, but have you had unique opportunities, to be used in the kingdom of God, or opportunities along the way that have come about in your career, but have been what I call God moments?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's interesting too, because a lot of the opportunities that I have had along the way were with people that I'd never really had face-to-face interactions with a lot. So I wouldn't say necessarily that they were quote-unquote friends at work. It was people that I had had acquaintances with, but they saw from a distance that I was different, or the way that I led my life was different. And so when they had a need and they had a question, it may have just been a general question. I had a guy come up and ask me something about getting a tattoo one time. I'm just like, he asked me, I was like, why did you ask me? I mean, we've never really talked about
Yeah.
church. We've never talked about anything. Why me? And he told me it was because of the way that I led my life. It was the way that he heard me talk, and not the way that other people talked. So I think, people are going to see the way you live your life. You
Yeah.
may not realize how important that is, but the people that you may never talk to, that you work with and around, they're going to notice, and they're going to
Watching
see
you
that
every day.
So your
Yes.
life, the way you may not speak to someone, but the way that you live your life is a witness every day to the people you work with.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
And I could add to that what Ronnie was saying, how important just our walk is. I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but I wasn't raised in church. So when I had taken that job I mentioned earlier, working the shift work, and didn't really need any type of education for that type job, but the man that was training me on the machine that I was running was actually a licensed minister, Brother Dustin Good. He was the youth pastor in El Dorado. He's down in Lake Charles now doing a wonderful work down there. But we were working together, and through that relationship, he never pushed his beliefs. He never, tried to win me over by arguing with me or anything, but he was just himself, and I could tell there's something different about this guy.
Yeah.
And it was through that relationship that I came into the truth. And it, if he, wasn't himself, if he was trying to act like somebody else in the workplace, and
What a great story.
yeah, I mean, it's so, the workplace relationship, you don't have to necessarily go around and try to lay hands on people and,
Right.
be overly spiritual, but sometimes simply that walk and just carrying that light can be enough for people when they're ready.
Yeah.
They know who to go to.
That's so good.
Always looking for opportunities along
Right.
the way
Right.
to say, okay, God, today, how can I be used and be a blessing to your kingdom? It's excellent. And I know Brother Dustin. I didn't know that story.
Yeah, I didn't know that story either.
That's
That
pretty
gives,
impactful to me.
That gives your first story of your path, your journey, just
Yeah.
another layer of meaning. That's beautiful. So we had a panel discussion a few weeks ago at Cornerstone. Brother Ronnie, you got to be a part of that. And I pulled a question from that panel, and it segues perfectly into what we were just talking about. But it's how we deal with conflict in a Christ-like way, because every career you're going to have moments of conflict, because like we've been talking about, we're dealing with personalities, we're dealing with people, and that's just part of it. And people are watching how we respond. So how can we deal with conflict? What would you tell somebody about dealing with conflict in your workplace in a Christ-like way?
I would just say so at our firm, we're a smaller firm. We run about 20 people. And coming into this, it's pretty amazing what the owners the culture that they've built. It was a very Christian environment. Both the owners and a lot of the workers there are involved in ministry. Different denominations represented, but it's a very Christian environment. And so when I was first hired on, the owner told me, okay, here's kind of the priorities of this company. We put God first, we put family second, and then we do our work. So as long as we get those things covered, then that's kind of going to be our focus. And that impressed me so much. And I think particularly in our smaller environment, it's just that culture is felt throughout. My wife recently started coming and helping at the firm just part-time, and she was asking one of the ladies there, what's your favorite thing about working here? Just trying to open a conversation. And that she told me a response that kind of surprised me, but she said, well, it's the Christian environment. She said, I just love working here. We don't have, nobody's yelling at me, nobody's cussing me out. And I know that's
great.
That's not true everywhere. So I think setting the culture, and coming in as a leader and just kind of emanating that throughout really helps alleviate conflict. Conflict's going to happen, of course. You can't always...
right, especially with some of those bad news that you have to deliver every so often.
Exactly, but you come into our office, we've got a Bible on the table that's open. We've got daily devotionals that are set to the right date. So we usually have Christian music playing in the background. So it helps.
It does. Setting the environment helps.
So I just
they'll bring you coffee when you come in. I mean, it's
what service.
So just doing some of those things to kind of help the environment helps alleviate some conflict, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've had a little bit of conflict, but I mean, they know who we are. They know we've got everybody's best interests, so we'll figure it out.
That's right. That's good.
Well, Ronnie, you're in corporate America, and so I can imagine that to be a little...
So it's a not small environment.
Right.
A little different, much larger environment.
Last I checked, I think Lockheed had 112,000 employees.
Wow.
Worldwide.
Wow.
Just
incredible.
Over 1,000 here in Camden, is that?
I believe over
right?
1,000 in Camden. They are growing rapidly. I think they were about 500 in 2015 once I was here.
Wow.
Initially.
So have you ever, and maybe not at Lockheed, maybe at the mill, dealt with some conflict along the way, and how do we deal with that in a Christ-like way? Or
yeah, I think number one in dealing with conflict, especially with people, is I'm going to pull something that Brother Jerry said that I just loved. He said he made an analogy that you
shout out Jerry McCool.
Yeah. He made an analogy that you carry around a Q-tip in your pocket, and you spell that out when somebody starts bringing something at you, or they come at you a certain way at work that may offend you or whatever, but you say, quit taking it personal.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing at work, especially because you get so tied into the things that you're trying to accomplish, to the work that you're trying to do, that you really do just tie yourself to those things. Mm-hmm. And when someone comes in and tries to make that better or correct some things that you're doing, maybe it's right, but you too tend to take that personal, and that in it of itself creates conflict. And so when I'm dealing with other people and I'm trying to guide lead, direct into a certain situation, I try to always make sure that, my approach is not an attackful approach. It's, a way that I can come in and try to lead with suggestions or
Yeah.
kind of show different ways to do certain things. Because as a leader, your approach makes all the difference in the
Right.
world. And so you can mitigate a lot of conflict just in the way that you approach a situation.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I have not created conflict,
Sure.
because I absolutely have.
Sure.
I'm fairly new in my role. I'll tell you, I mean, as an engineer, I've kind of gotten to where I am because I'm a driver. I like to get things done. And so I've had to try to take a step back and understand that
Yeah.
not everybody's like me.
And when you step
so-
into management, you have to deal with
You
people.
do.
You
Yeah.
have to deal
You
with
absolutely
personalities.
do.
So it's just part of it. So on the opposite side of that, from conflict, have either of you ever had the opportunity to pray with someone or minister to someone in the workplace where you found out they were down, you found out something was wrong, and you had the chance just in that moment to speak an encouraging word to them or share a prayer with them? Has that ever come up for either of you in your time in the work field force?
Yeah, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, but obviously that relationship I had with Dustin, I mean, we were always, iron sharpening iron. Just, he was actually the best man in my wedding. So just that relationship was so beneficial to me. I know in my workplace now as an accountant, as I mentioned, it is a very God-centered environment. So we're all the time talking about God, and those conversations are coming up. And if someone's down, we pray for them or anything like that. One story I thought about, it was kind of interesting. Recently, the young couple in our church that handles the children's ministry on Wednesday nights, they had to be out of town, and so kind of last minute they asked me, "Hey, can you cover children's church tonight?" And I was like, "Oh man, okay."
It's everyone's favorite question before. Hey, can you help out with kids' church?
Sure. So so I was like, okay, I can do it. And it was like on a Wednesday, and I was working all day, and so I was like, I probably should see about taking off an hour early so I can go home and prepare. So I went to my partner, and I was telling him, like, hey, I've got this situation. I really feel like I need to take off a little early today to go do this thing with the children's church. And he asked me what I was teaching on, and I was like, well, I was thinking about Elijah. I was going to teach on Elijah, tell him the story, get him to act it out, I was going to teach on Elijah. And he kind of looked at me funny, and he's like, well, here, take this. And on his desk, I mean, he's got tax returns and everything spread out, but he had a stack of kids' Bible study materials on the prophet Elijah. He teaches Sunday school at his church,
That's
and
great.
he's going through Elijah. And I was just like, wow, what a God moment.
Yeah,
So I took
very
his stack
cool.
and went and made copies, and was able to utilize that. So
That's so good. That's so good. Ronnie, do you have any?
Sorry, what was the question?
A chance to pray or minister with someone in the workforce.
Yeah, I
in the
did.
workplace,
I'll keep it quick. When I was at the mill, I worked shift work there for a period of time. I worked, so I was working nights, and we had typically one electrician and one mechanical maintenance guy on the shift. And I would make my rounds. If anyone has an experience in a paper mill, that at night it's dark, it's damp, and so I was at the back part of the mill and just happened to run across the electrician that was on shift with me, and we got to talking, and he was going through a rough patch in his life. He was dealing with some cancer, and I just felt impressed in that moment to pray for him, and I just asked him, it's like, hey, do you mind if I pray for you? And he was like, absolutely. And we had a great God moment
awesome.
in the middle of the night in a paper mill. Not at church.
Prayer works
Yeah,
anywhere.
prayer
Perfect.
works
Prayer
anywhere.
works.
Yes,
Yeah.
so good.
So we had a great moment there.
Well, I tell our church often, and I know we're wrapping up, and this certainly speaks to Lockheed Martin and Emmerich and Scroggins, that your workplace has no idea how blessed they are when you walk through those doors. And I'm godly proud of each of you. And I'll say this: advancement for individuals in the workplace, advancement for individuals, advancements for families, is advancement for the church. And when families are blessed, the church is blessed. When families advance, the church advances. And so I thank you two both for what you're doing in your workplace, what you're both doing in your local churches. You guys are a blessing, not only to your families, but you're a blessing to your church. And thank you for that. And thank you for joining with us tonight.
Yeah. We talk
yeah,
about
we
that
enjoyed
often, that there's a lot of companies and businesses, with you guys being no exception, places of employment that reap benefits and blessing from having Spirit-filled Christians in their workplaces. And I'm going to wrap up with this, just a really quick story. 2 or 3 years ago, I worked for Harmony Grove High School, and on a Sunday, we had a special sacrificial offering. We called it Sacrifice Sunday, and it was there's several people that worked there with me at Harmony Grove, and they participated in the offering, and they had told me it was their first time to ever participate in something like that. It was a very exciting time for church. And then Monday morning, when we get to work, we all had an email. We were all getting a bonus, unprecedented bonus.
Wow,
It was
awesome.
and it was amazing. And I told the ladies, I picked up my phone, I felt impressed by the Spirit to do it right then. I said, this is no coincidence that our entire district is being blessed because of our obedience in our Sacrifice Sunday offering.
right.
And they all were just like, yes, that's exactly what we thought. So that was just a really cool moment and a little testimony of what he's saying about your place of employment is blessed because they have you. I totally believe
what you
that.
do day in and day out,
Yes.
it's a calling of God.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you go to your workplace, when you are faithful in your career, you're being faithful to the Lord.
Yes. Nothing like it. So all good things must come to an end. I have enjoyed this show very much. Thank you guys again for being here.
You both have been great.
Enjoyed
Thank
it.
you.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
So to the listeners, leave us some feedback. We want to hear from you, and God bless you. We'll see you again very soon.